Thanks for coming out today, everybody. My name is Kristian Childs. I am an Austin native. I was actually born and raised here 27 years ago. Actually, my birthday is June 28th, or June 21st, excuse me. So I will be turning 28 in June. Today, I'm going to be talking with you about debt in relationship to personal finance, and the fastest way out of it is up. Real quick disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. If you're seeking legal advice on bankruptcy, debt settlement, other matters involving money, I recommend you consult with a professional. I can refer you to a CPA. I also know financial planners and attorneys who can help out with that situation. You can speak with me after the presentation, or you can email me at info@Kristian.Childs.com. And I want to start out real quick with a quote from Mike Ditka. He's the NFL coach who coached the Bears in 1963. He won the Super Bowl. 1985, he coached the team to the Super Bowl. He was also one of the only players, assistant coaches, and coaches to win all three levels in the Super Bowl. He was an assistant coach, head coach, and a player, and he went to the Super Bowl in all three roles. He said that success isn't measured by money or power or social rank. Success is measured by your discipline and inner peace. So I want you to think about that for a moment. How we measure our social status in society is often dictated by outside perceptions of wealth and status. And who am I? I'm 28 years old. I paid off $33,555 of student loan debt in just shy of 3 years while earning just above minimum wage. I run a digital marketing agency now. I help clients with their revenue and increase profit through direct response marketing principles using on and offline media. That's a picture of my wife and I, Allie, on the beach in Florida in 2018. Actually, I think that was, yes, March of last year. We just went back out to Pensacola of March of this year to visit my family again. And it's one of my favorite places to be. So today, the presentation, we're going to be discussing why debt is a necessary tool for leveraging wealth, why debt's not a death sentence if you are in debt, and how you can quickly get out of debt, what are the different types of debt and how to use them, and the number one killer of wealth. So real quick, I want you guys to think about, what is debt? Like, what is debt to you?
You owe people something, and it's usually financial.
Okay.
Money you don't have.
Okay.
Owing money.
Okay. So nobody said like it's bad or evil or there's any sort of connotation towards the quality of person that you are. Debt is simply owing to someone else. So the actual definition, as in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the first one is a religious connotation. It's sinful, it's trespassing. We're going to just kind of brush right by that because this is not a religious talk. Nothing against that, but we want to use the second definition, which is something that's owed. It's an obligation. Unable to pay his debts. Owe them a debt of gratitude. A criminal's debt to society. Not always is it about money. It's often about having something that you owe now against. So now, what is wealth?
The ability to do the activities that you want to do without regard for financial situation regarding that, or without regard to how much money you have.
Okay.
The way I've heard it described is not having to work, so being able to live without needing to sort of work during that time and still have enough money to roll for a long time.
Okay.
I think of it as long-term savings, I guess. And to your point, having more than you owe.
Cool. Okay, that's a good answer as well. They're all good answers. Wealth is determined based off of what we perceive wealth to be. So wealth, as defined in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is an abundance of valuable materials or possessions. Material possessions or resources. And I highlighted valuable resources because oftentimes wealth gets associated with possessions, which is in the definition, but resources is really what actually builds wealth. in society. So an abundant supply is the second definition, and that is also a really good example of what wealth is in society. So oftentimes we see like the Kardashians and people on, it used to be MTV Cribs, and some people won't even know what that reference is to, but now it's the Kardashians, and you have, rappers, and you still have people driving Lamborghinis and that kind of thing, but that's not actually what creates wealth. That's just possessions. Resources are what create wealth. So some of the resources that everyone has access to are time, energy, not always money. I put money down, but you do have access to money even though you don't technically have like money in your bank account. Motivation, knowledge, enthusiasm, food, clothing, and shelter. These are what we consider resources. They're not niceties, they're necessities. So possessions are your watch, your car, your motorcycle, your house that you live in, the set of Armani suits that you have, or the Armani watch. Like, those are possessions, but those don't necessarily bring wealth. So my definition of wealth is a length of time a man or a woman can afford to live in their present state without needing to work or change their means. Which kind of goes back to what you guys said, which is about how long you can live without needing to work, how much you have stored, how much savings you have, et cetera, et cetera. So consumer debt, personal debt, and professional debt. Let's talk about consumer debt real quick. This is like what most people find themselves in. This is the broad strokes of society. Get into debt in order to buy luxuries like cars, personal houses, jewelry, clothing, travel, entertainment. And I lumped in student loans as well, because most student loan debt is financing, and some people would consider this a skill you're gaining. Really, what happens is with student loans, there are several ways you can get into college, finance college, without ever having to take out student loans. So it's not really a necessity. Student loans are also often used to finance degrees that have no actual bearing towards your role in society. And I'll actually show you an example. This is a chart of underemployed first jobs by major. Now, underemployed means these people have jobs, but they're not actually utilizing their degree to get the job. So an example is a bartender. You go get an engineering degree, you become a bartender. Now you're underemployed because you're an engineer by trade, but you're a bartender. You don't need the engineering degree. So you'll see that as you go down, it gets more esoteric. We have foreign languages, physical sciences, English language and literature, education. And what's astonishing is that education, this is based off of 1 million people surveyed, 1 million resumes, education is actually 50%. That means that half the teachers that are going to go graduate from college are going to leave college and never become a teacher. And we're financing this, and it's a consumer debt, because it does not actually increase your wealth. It does not increase your career capital. You're going to go to school and spend money and then have to pay it off later. So this was a study conducted by the Serata Institute for the Future of Work in conjunction with Burning Glass Technologies. They found that more than 40% of college graduates took positions outside their degree field. And more than 1 out of 5 grads are still not working in a degree-demanding job more than a decade after graduation. So this means it was actually never relevant for 20% of society that graduates. So personal debt is the second category. Personal debt is defined as a person who's responsible, for which you're personally responsible, therefore your family or friends loan you something and now you're personally responsible, or a bank gives you a loan based on collateral like your home or your car. So this is actually more favorable than consumer debt because oftentimes your interest rates are much lower. We're looking at closer to 5 to 10% as opposed to upwards of 25, 30% on most consumer lines of credit. And also, if you have a loan to a friend or a family member, you can use that personal loan to pay off a higher interest rate line of credit. Like, I have some friends that have 29% interest on a credit card. If they took $4,000 from a friend or a family member and agreed to pay them back 5%, at the end of a 12-month period, they could circumvent 20% interest on that loan. Now, professional debt is actually a debt that I'm really in favor of. This is debt you go into finance acquisition of assets or to grow skills. So rental properties, micro business loans, margin for trading, lending for a small venture or a large venture. Professional-based certifications like a PMP, which is a project management professional, continued education credits, advanced training, sales and communications training. These are all good financial investments. And if you can get a loan that has a low to no interest rate or a line of credit that you can then use to acquire these assets, you're in much better financial position. Now, another thing too, you can also be the lender on these loans. So you can do a loan if you have stores of capital wealth built up. You can actually lend this money out to a rental property purchase or a micro business loan, which is something that Mike was talking about doing, or lending out for a venture, and you'll actually increase your wealth. So how to get out of any amount of debt in less than a year. Now, I want you guys to remember that this is for education purposes. This is not legal advice. I'm not advising you to do one thing or the other. But I will say that your options are pretty few. You can increase your income, decrease expenses, and work harder, or you can work smarter, which goes back into velocity payoff and using lines of credit or using lower interest rate debt to pay off higher interest rate debt. Or the third option, which is really more of just for laughs, is you can go declare bankruptcy. If you have like more than $100,000 of non-student loan debt. You cannot get rid of student loan debt. It doesn't go away. But really at that point you want to talk to a lawyer, financial advisor to discuss that option if that's really a situation you're in. What you cannot do is student loans do not go away. So even if you're negative in your business, you're losing money every single year, you have to declare bankruptcy, your student loans won't go away. They will follow you till you die. Your car could get repossessed if you have some financial issues, so the car will be taken away. Your house will also be taken away too if you are not able to make payments on it. The average bankruptcy takes about 7 years to recover from, but you can rebuild your credit and it can be done in about a year if you do the right things. And now that we've kind of got that cleared out of the way, how do you use debt to build wealth? So in one sense, using lower interest rate debt to purchase assets that continue to grow and pay cash flow is probably the best example. You can also become a lender, and you can become the bank, and you can make loans to small businesses or to friends and family members, and then also improve your portfolio that way. So my favorite way is through real estate. After you paid off outstanding consumer debt, you can then take back your cash flow and redirect it towards your assets. And the number one reason I like real estate for being able to leverage and grow your wealth is that you can use part of the asset to be able to acquire and control the whole asset and be able to reap the reward for that asset in the present based off of the whole value. And I'll show you with an example. So this is an example multifamily property. I ran the numbers on it. The assumptions are that we're putting 20% down on a $169,000 home, which is rather small for some people, rather large for others. We're also going to hire management at 10% of monthly gross revenue. So year one, you can see that $30,000 annualized gross income minus $18,120 of annualized expenses. It includes vacancy. It includes hiring a property manager. It also includes all your other expenses and capital expenditures. So our net income is $11,880. We are servicing debt of 80% at 5%, of 80% on the loan at 5% over a 20-year amortized loan, and that's $9,828. And that leaves us with a conservative $2,052, which is 6% of cash flow, based off of our $33,800 investment. And we have $2,823 of principal paydown in year one, and we have $3,380 of appreciation the first year if we're assuming the asset grows at 2%. So the total cash flow on paper and in pocket is going to be $8,255. And if you calculate that out, that's about 24%. Now, this is just an example, but you can see that that is much more favorable than working a job. Right? That's how you acquire wealth, and that's just year one. every year after that, the cash flow will increase. So that's an example of using real estate as a tool to be able to increase your wealth. And you don't have to actually have the $169,000 to be able to buy the property. You can control the whole property for 20%. There are other things to mention as well. There's a lot of tax benefits. Talk to a CPA, blah, blah, blah. The other way is through business. Now, you can start your own small business or micro business and serve an underserved area of the market. What I like about business is that, and Mike can attest, you can see upwards of 200% ROI. It's possible. There's businesses that make more than that. There's businesses that do a lot less than that. But ask yourself this: if I double a dime 20 times, how much do I have? Off the top of your head.
Tough math.
Take a guess.
A swimming pool full of money.
That's a lot of dimes. Anybody else?
I don't have that right.
So if you take a dime and you double it 20 times, and you look at the schedule right there. So starting out at 10 cents, the first time you double it's 20 cents, then 40 cents, 80 cents, $1.60, $3.20, $6.40, all the way down to $104,857.60. This is obviously, it's a very, very rare example to get 200% ROI 20 times. Even if it was quarterly, that would be 200% over 4 years every quarter. Not likely to happen. But again, we're starting with 10 cents. So if we start with $10,000 and we compound it 30% every quarter, then we're going to see pretty good returns. So this is the power of compounding interest. This is another reason why business is nice over working a job, or even we have our primary asset classes are going to be your paper, stocks, bonds, index funds, your real estate, and then your business. And I like business and real estate because they can grow faster. So how do you use debt to leverage wealth? Well, I just showed you several different ways you can use debt to leverage wealth. If you took the business example right here, and you started out with a small $5,000 micro loan, and you went and compounded it the first 2 quarters, 200% return on investment. You go out and spend all the money. It comes back in $10,000. You spend it all again, you get to $20,000. And then you stop getting 200% return on investment. You only get 45%. Oh, well, that's not that great, but at the same time, you're now returning 45% on your money. So again, depending on what kind of business you're in, if you're in a service business, it's very possible. If you're in a restaurant business, probably closer to 10%. But with business, if you pick the right business, the right market, and it's underserved, you can really see your money leveraged, and you can grow your assets much faster than if you just invest in the stock market. A couple key principles about using debt to leverage your wealth. Don't over leverage yourself. Always carry cash reserves. I think you guys would agree that having some cash on hand is always better than being completely leveraged. Conservative cash flow analysis is important. On the numbers that I ran for that real estate example, always be conservative. Because if you're too conservative, you make more money. But if you're not conservative enough, you could end up losing money. Then you lose your asset. Do your research prior to purchasing to ensure lower risk during the purchase. I always run those numbers through a calculator, and I always double check my numbers, then have someone else double check my numbers before I ever consider anything. And then the fourth point is I recommend strongly pay off your consumer debts before ever considering investing. As I'm sure you guys already know, it's really important because if you're thinking about paying this 20% credit card over here, and then you're over here trying to grow your business, that's kind of how you lose money. I've done it. So I recommend to anybody that's starting out to definitely pay off your consumer debts first, then start your side hustle. And the number one wealth killer, you guys have any guesses?
Lack of motivation.
Motivation's a strong killer of wealth, yeah.
Ignorance, or maybe buying a lot of things that you don't get a lot out of, or that you don't make money from, maybe.
Those are very good points. It's actually ignorance. Ignorance is not always bliss. So, right on the money. So, Benjamin Franklin said, we're all born ignorant, but one must work really hard to remain stupid. And the definition in Webster's dictionary of ignorance is the state of being ignorant or the lack of knowledge, education, or awareness. We're all pursuing that. To be stupid is to be slow of mind. And none of us are slow of mind. So continue to educate yourself, continue to learn, continue to come meet up with other smart people, smarter people. I'd rather be in a room full of smarter people than to be the smartest guy in the room. So a couple things of housekeeping. We'll have everybody sign in. That way we can let you know about the next meetup and whoever's going to be presenting on the next talk. We have a Facebook group called Money Talks. If you haven't already joined it, go ahead and join it. It's Money Talks. And then fill out the feedback sheet. We're going to have like an online survey so that you guys can give us feedback on the presentation and any questions, thoughts, or anything you want to see us change or do. Oh, and Mike and I are also going to be putting together a course. It's basically what we talked about for personal finance and for money management. The course sections are going to be avoiding high interest rate consumer debt, paying off debt at lightning speeds. I have several calculators I can give you. Number 2 is setting up an emergency fund. Number 3 is creating a budget, because budgets are sexy. Number 4 is going to be the 10% rule in automation. 5 is developing your side hustle. Both Mike and I have several side hustles. 6 is buying assets with positive cash flow, which we kind of alluded to a little bit. And some resources. This is the mortgage calculator tool that I use to visualize interest on mortgages. Any questions?
That's great. That was really helpful.
Cool. Thank you guys.
So we'll go into kind of a discussion period based on some of the things that we talked about.